I assure you that you won't know how we will reach this situation. Set in the near future, the film presents us with an unprecedented war in South Korea. Faced with the enemy's onslaught, the Allies send their best asset, the captain, an elite soldier with dozens of successful missions under his belt. Of course, he couldn't have built that reputation without the support of his loyal companions. Together, they are Team Resurrection, and together they always win. Under the captain's leadership, they storm into a building where a large-scale bomb is hidden. With his teammates covering the entrances, the captain clears the hallways efficiently and also epically. However, not everything goes perfectly. It turns out that his colleague, Mr. Peludo, has separated from the others and is now cornered by the enemy. The others agree to abandon him for the sake of the cause, but the captain leaves no one behind. While his colleagues are busy deactivating the bomb, the captain valiantly defends his position like never before. Bravely facing an endless wave of enemies, he is going to fall, that is an undeniable fact. However, he will do it like a true hero. And now, presenting to you, the real Captain Kwon Yu. We are not in the future. What we saw was from an online shooting game that Kwon usually plays in an internet cafe. In that moment, his gaming session is interrupted by a call from his mother, who tells him she thinks she left the stove on. She is busy with a real job at the hospital, so Kwon should go home, but there's a big difference between should and must. Instead, he keeps playing as if nothing happened, until a nearby phone starts ringing. Since no one answers it, the protagonist picks up the call and hears a girl on the other end asking him to bring her phone in exchange for some extra money. Kwon shows up at the girl's apartment, who indicates from the shower where he should leave the phone. There, the boy finds his respective payment. Before leaving, he warns the young woman to lock the door, as anyone could enter her home. She doesn't respond the next day, when he is awakened by officers who burst into his house with a clear order to arrest him on charges of abuse and homicide of Jisoo, the young girl from the apartment. Just then, he realizes that his hands are soaked in blood and that there is a bloody knife on the floor. Likewise, his fingerprints are in the victim's apartment, along with the security videos in which he appears. His poor mother gets the help of Min, a public defender who represents him in the subsequent trial. Or at least he tries, because both the authorities and the media had already agreed on a guilty verdict. Consequently, Kwon is sentenced to life imprisonment in a maximum security prison where the worst of the worst reside. Barely on his first day, the young man becomes the target of the leader of the most dangerous local gang, Doksu, who labels him a coward for continuing to deny his crime. He still does. Naturally, he pays for his recklessness with an exemplary severe beating. Even the guards give him their share and send him to the isolation ward. In this hell, Kwon's only relief is his mother's visits, who informs him that she is making the right contacts to review his case. She doesn't know when she'll be able to get him out of there, but she's sure she will. With renewed strength, the protagonist returns to his ordeal. No matter how much they beat him, they can't break him. Additionally, he now has the support of an old inmate who knows how to recognize a killer when he sees one, and Kwon is not one. Therefore, he helps him with his medicinal herbs and his knowledge about prison life. That way, Kwon prepares for his next encounter with Dok. This time, Dok is the one punished. More motivated than ever, the protagonist eagerly anticipates his mother's upcoming visit, only to be met with the devastating news that she has departed from this world. His confusion outweighs his grief. How could she have left after promising to get him out? It makes no sense. In his dreams, Kwon reunites with his mother and is finally able to vent his emotions. But enough with the sentimentality, it's time to get to work. Knowing that they are hiding the truth about his mother's death from him, Kwon will follow through with a riot to get out of prison, as the old healer instructed him on how to do it. On the way to the hospital, the protagonist gets up and escapes the guards, not without causing damage. Kwon's escape quickly becomes a national scandal, as the media continues to label him an abuser. That's precisely what the young man wants to change. He doesn't intend to rot in prison for something he didn't do. Thanks to some foreigners who have no idea about the situation, Kwon gets a car with which he returns to Seoul. There he stops by Min's office, who believes in his version of events, just like his mother. Speaking of her, he gives her a necklace that belonged to her. However, the lawyer also called the police, as he will only review his case through legal procedures. Kwon, reluctant to return to prison, escapes through the window. The next day, he finds a way to communicate with his friend, Mr. Peludo, and arrange a meeting with him. The surprise is that it's not a him, but a her. Would you? Details of the virtual friends Yo allows him to hide in her apartment, which is surprising because she doesn't seem very sociable. Of course, he can't say no to the captain, who can't help but shed a few tears when tasting real food after prison. While he understands it, I recommend he pull himself together because soon the others will come. What others? Well, the rest of the Resurrection team: Jong-Ru, a semi-unemployed technician, Demolition, a special effects worker, and Negarev, an old university professor. 2 members are missing. Although they were indisposed, they all continue to use their online names, as that is how they met. Together they intend to help the captain clear his name. Yo then shows them his research, indicating that there are many irregularities surrounding the incriminating evidence against Kwon. The team examines the recent high-profile violent crimes, and through the security camera footage, they discover that the same truck was parked near all the crime scenes. Following this lead, Kwon arrives at Yoon's apartment, a rising young actor who, surprise, has just been murdered. From a corner, the protagonist observes a team of specialists creating a crime scene under the narrative of a crazy fan who stalked, killed, and embalmed her idol. Once the specialists leave, one begins to closely inspect what they did, unaware that someone is watching him through a hidden camera. That someone is none other than Min. By orders of a certain President Chu, Min is tasked with finding a scapegoat through his supercomputer. Upon finding the perfect candidate, a girl named Sue, Min sends a team to drug her and collect her hair, saliva, and blood, the necessary elements to frame her for a crime she didn't commit. Returning to Team Resurrection, Jae discovers that President Chu's daughter was the real murderer of them together. Guess what? Kwon also paid for the crimes of a millionaire's son. Therefore, the team keeps their eyes on Saw, tapping her phone and trying to find the right moment to alert her. Upon seeing her assaulted by her boss, Kwon risks his cover to help her. Fortunately, she fails to recognize her savior. The next day, Kwon hears a call between a familiar voice, Jisoo, the girl from the apartment, or rather, the one who made him believe she was Jisoo. Because of her and her accomplices, he lived through hell, and now he's about to fall into the same hole. After Geo intercepts the call, the protagonist tries to intercept the girl on the phone. Although she is rescued at the very last second by a motorcyclist, Kwon doesn't give up and starts chasing them in her car, regardless of the fact that she is attracting the attention of the police. Well, her car does care, because it ends up shutting down. Checkmate. Don't be fooled. He didn't come to save Kwon either. Actually, it's Doc's gang, who was freed by Min in exchange for something. The murder of Kwon. First of all, Doc enjoys torturing him in an abandoned warehouse, although the police soon show up. Despite Min having many officers in his pocket, the protagonist escapes the warehouse amidst the confusion and is picked up by Yo. Seeing Deok on their heels, Geo deduces Kwon's necklace hides a tracker. Painfully, he discards his mother's last gift. Once gathered, the team tracks the girl from the phone to Min's office, in whose building his command center is hidden. Since the place is impenetrable, the investigators resort to another tactic to ruin Jin's crime scene, destroying all the evidence that incriminated software. Min has no choice but to delay the accusation and call the specialists again. It is then that the investigators launch another attack. A maneuver executed by Min, a maneuver that is quickly nullified thanks to Kwon and his friends. Inevitably, President Chu's daughter ultimately ends up being accused of Jin's murder. Just as Kwon calls Min to boast about his victory, and he can't hide his surprise. He underestimated him. He won't make that mistake again. I'm afraid Kwon didn't hear that part. Since he hung up the call, Min senses that something strange is happening and goes to hide in his command center. he fell into the trap again. Through the database, the surveillance videos of Min's victims are found. Anyone from the slums could be next. Well, not anymore. With a USB, the protagonist begins to download all the evidence. Upon finding videos of his mother, Min apologizes for having killed her. Kwon knew that she couldn't have just eliminated herself. There lies the culprit. The protagonist goes for a second round of punches, although Min reveals to him that his dear friends are in Dok's clutches. Without time to wait for the data transfer, Kwon heads to save his friends, causing a blackout to confuse Dok's men. Batman, with these skills seemingly coming out of nowhere, the protagonist manages to take down the thugs and free his friends. In the chase, Kwon goes through the narrowest alleys, taking advantage of his small car. Dok's not so much. Nevertheless, Min has other criminals on his payroll, which means Resurrection cannot claim victory just yet. In true Doreo fashion, Kwon skillfully evades his pursuers. During the chase, they realize that Min has convinced the press that they are a criminal network of psychopaths. With the police on their heels, the team goes through a recording studio and reaches a parking lot, where each takes on new roles. While Kwon continues to maintain the pursuit, Jang assists him with his drones, and Demolition with his harpoon. Additionally, let's not forget about the special effects. Meanwhile, Yo attempts to remotely access Min's database. Unfortunately, Dok successfully manages to capture her, and her teammates soon fall into the hands of the police. In a final desperate effort, Kwon stands up to Dok on the road, as he instructs her to jump into his car. Now I understand why. With Yo free, the protagonist keeps distracting the police until he must surrender. Just as Min starts to celebrate, his supercomputer completely shuts down. Yo's USB has finished its job. Remember Negative? Well, he just brought in the other two remaining members of Team Resurrection. A cameraman, one adult film actress, don't ask. Together, they hack the TV network and present evidence from Min's database, detailing his modus operandi and accomplices. Immediately, the police arrest Min, and Kwon is acquitted. In prison, Min becomes Dok's new victim. In the final scene, Team Resurrection celebrates with a dinner. This time there's no screen separating them. For the first time in a long time, Kwon smiles. And that's how this great movie ends. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and thanks for